Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Filip Černý. I'm the product marketing specialist focused on the Flowmon product line here at Progress Company. And in today's webinar, we'll be looking at the introduction into the network detection and response. So just a little bit of house cleaning rules before we dig into the presentation. You have an option to ask any questions anytime during the presentation into the navigation bar on the top right corner. So if anytime during the presentations you have any questions, feel free to leave them there. And at the end of the presentation, we'll be looking at the question. So let me just click into the full screen and let's get started. So what is the agenda for today? We'll be looking at the state of network security, what it looks like today, and why we need network detection and response solution. We'll look at closely what network detection and response solution is, how it works, and how it can complement to other security technologies that you might have deployed in your security stack. And finally, we'll summarize the benefits and look at a closer example of some ransomware and how you can detect it through the lens of network detection and response solution. So before we dig deep into the NDR solution, I would like to recap the state of IT security from the last year. As you can see from just a couple of examples that I was able to find, many of the organizations have fallen victim to ransomware attacks. Ransomware demands are happening at ever-increasing pace and crippling organizations and costing millions of dollars in ransom payments, loss of productivity, and diminished consumer confidence. Now we even see a rise in ransomware as a service. Ransomware as a service is a nice proof that threat actors are smart and they want to make it easier for themselves. Because hackers have realized that it's way more easier just develop a malicious ransomware code and sell it or rent it for a small fee to anyone who is interested on the dark web. Those people then can target a number of businesses to attack with ransomware and listen to the sob stories of the victims to negotiate about the ransomware payment. And after the deed is done and the payment is paid, the hacker will just split the ransom with the developer, and it's just way more easier for them this way. So with the rise of ransomware and as we can see how the current trend is shaping, it's not a question of if you get attacked, but it's a question of when. To support my claims, I just wanted to show you a couple of, I would say, scary numbers. 590 million is the total value of suspicious activity reported in the first 6 months of last year, and that actually exceeded the value reported for the entire year of 2020. If we look at the report from the FBI's Crimes Complaint Center, they reported more than 2,000 ransomware complaints from just the first 6 months of 2021 year, and that represented 62% year-over-year increase. 30% of global organizations said that they were victim of some form of ransomware attack in 2021. I even managed to find out some other numbers that kind of summarize the whole 2021 year. And I think the report was done by Sophos, and it was called the State of Ransomware Report 2021. And it shows that the average cost to deal with the attack in 2021 was $1.85 million. This was up from the 2020 average, which was $761,000. So more than $1 million increase. These costs cover all of the activities required to recover from a ransomware attack. That includes paying the ransom, the cost associated with business disruption when IT systems are unavailable, operational downtime, the machinery and other plant devices usually controlled by IT system, staff overtime payments during the recovery period, and more. So within the 2021 figures, the actual ransomware payment the average was only $100 $170,000. So the ransom payment is not the final or the worst part that's going to happen to you, but it's all the other costs associated with the ransomware attack. So before we dig deep into the NDR, I wanted to show you this picture. I'm sure that many of you have seen this picture before in some form or another. The SOC visibility triad, or a security visibility triad, as it is sometimes referred to. The SOC visibility triad is a concept created by Anton Chuakin of Gartner, which postulates that deploying complementary security tools that make up for each other's shortcomings will significantly reduce the chance that an attacker will be able to achieve their goals. The triad consists of three pillars. We have endpoint detection and response, basically deploying agents on endpoint for endpoint security. We can have log collection, usually in forms of CM tools, and we can have network detection and response for behavior analysis from the network perspective. And that is why security teams turn to this security model that extends log management and endpoint protection with network detection and response tools, because network detection and response pillar compensates for the weak points of the other two pillars, CM and EDR, and together gives a full visibility across complex IT environments. If we look at a traditional security approach, we can see that many organizations still rely on a signature-based detection provided by a firewall and antivirus to keep them safe, but forget to monitor and secure the network. Prevention at the perimeter is only one component of cybersecurity, and those products focused at this layer have only one goal: to keep the threats out. But what happens when attackers manage to sneak inside using, for example, stolen credentials or other tactics? Perimeter tools are blind to malicious activity inside enterprise networks. CM and EDR are deployed for good reasons, but they leave a blind spot in the east and west corridor where adversaries can hide after they slipped past perimeter defenses. By taking a network-based approach instead, network detection and response fills those critical visibility gaps. And how? How is it possible? Well, because every asset, whether it is in cloud or on-premises data center, it uses the network to communicate. That's what makes network detection and response the ultimate source of truth for cloud and hybrid security. Advanced network detection and response solutions are also capable of monitoring and analyzing encrypted traffic. This is very important because it's estimated that over 90% of malware is hidden this way. Network detection and response solutions permanently observes network traffic, analyzing communications to seek anomalies and reveal suspicious behavior. This enables a response to yet unknown security threats undetectable by other technologies. The average time from identifying a breach to safely containing it was, I think in 2021, over 287 days. And threat actors are developing a new malware every day for which the signature has not been created yet. So that's why having a network detection and response solution that does not rely on signatures but leverages machine learning is crucial for security teams. And with that, I would like to also highlight that even Gartner, in one of their quotes, stated that detection is more important than your blocking and prevention capabilities. So let's look how a network detection and response solution usually works. Explaining how it works can be divided into three steps. The first step can be summarized as data collection. You generally need to input the data. This can be in form of network telemetry. Usually we can see that the vendors are leveraging NetFlow statistics or IPFix standard, or they collect the full packet data. Usually they can also add some additional value by implementing reputational feeds and IDS signatures. The second steps, once we have the source of the data, we can then apply a number of different algorithms. These can be usually the machine learning, or it can be modeling a baseline, adaptive baselining, monitoring users' behavior, heuristic, and leveraging as well reputational data and some signatures as well. And once we apply those algorithms, we then have a result, usually in form of some events, where we can see exactly what's happening. Usually we can see, what kind of anomaly has occurred in the network, who was the attacker, who was the source of the attack, who were the targets, and all the other relevant network telemetry related to those detected events. So I would really like to highlight the differences in detection approaches, because network detection and response is really a crowded market with a low barrier to entry. And many vendors can apply a common analytical techniques to network traffic and claim they have the network detection and response solution, which still be true, but I would like to say that traditional method is really the statistical analysis is looking for traffic spikes and deviations from baseline, which yes, it's useful for some use cases, and but I would not call this a behavior analysis, or I would not call this is a network detection and response solution, because to truly provide an NDR capabilities, you need to be able to go beyond traditional statistical analysis and be able to detect threats and attacks that are not volumetric by nature, but they are still super important to detect. So let's go together beyond the traditional statistical approach and look at a number of different tools NDR solution can leverage for detection. The first example that I already talked to is machine learning. Using machine learning to continuously compute and analyze entropy between individual communication parties in the network to distinguish human and machine-like behavior. So with this technique, NDR solutions are able to detect the different types of attack against network services that demonstrate themselves with a very low entropy due to repetitive pattern in the network that they generate. So, for example, if an attacker is doing a slow brute force attack where it's trying to guess the password, machine learning can be one of the examples that can detect that sort of anomaly. Next, we have adaptive baselining or modeling a baseline. It's not baselining in terms of statistical analysis of the whole data, but it's baselining of individual hosts and how they behave in the network and comparing behavior of individual hosts to one another. So, for example, you can detect that one host is generating much more emails than others in the same network, and for example, much more DNS queries than the others in the same network, and that can indicate some sort of compromise. It may indicate spam. It may indicate that through the DNS something is exfiltrated on, and so on. So it's another important technique that NDR solution also leverages. Next, we can have heuristics algorithms that look for specific symptoms in the network, and they are working with probability. So, for example, in a peer-to-peer traffic, you look for a number of different symptoms, and you can calculate that there is, for example, 80% probability that this specific device is probably plugged in some BitTorrent network and uses BitTorrent download. So this is something that you don't want to see in a corporate environment. So that can be another example. Another example could be analyzing the user behavior, where we know that this type of communication does not represent legitimate pattern in the network. So, for example, if someone will try to connect over and over to an SSH, and then suddenly he will connect and transfer a lot of data, this will be flagged as a potential successful attack. That actually reminds me of one example that happened to one of our customers who has our NDR solution deployed. The name of the solution is called Flowmon, and our solution detected a suspicious upload of data from local network into the public repository. So it was in the hundreds of megabytes of data, and a specific station in the local network has been identified as a source. And later on, customer found out that one of the employees who has terminated a contract with the company wanted to back up the company data that he might need possibly in the future. So this is yet another example how NDR solution can help organizations secure the data. It doesn't have to be just ransomware attacks. And lastly, I mentioned reputational data. So NDR vendors can also include, for example, open source threat intelligence data to their offerings as a way of providing additional value. These can be commercial reputational feeds containing known malicious IPs, host names, domain names, JA3 fingerprints, etc. So this is a number of different ways how network detection and response solutions can leverage different approaches for detection. So once we have detected some sort of anomalies, what can we do with it? So let's look at the response capabilities. When we look at the response capabilities, we can divide them into two groups: manual response and automatic response. In the market guide for network detection and response by Gartner, Gartner actually recommends that you should decide early on in your evaluation process, if you desire automated response versus manual response capabilities. And clearly defined response strategy is really valuable in selecting a short list of NDR vendors. So let's look at the manual response. NDR solution should be able to provide a deep forensic investigation to help analysts understand advanced threat and attacks. The best NDR products will also offer continuous packet capture and for on-premise and cloud environments to provide you with the highest fidelity evidence source available to the investigators. So the NDR solutions can actually trigger the full packet capture and generate you a pcap file for more detailed forensic analysis. NDR vendors are continuously also improving workflow to prioritize the events. So analysts have everything at their fingerprints to validate, triage, and establish root cause, which allows them driving rapid incident response, which is really essential. For automatic response, NDR solutions focus on other complementary security solutions which you may already have deployed in your security stack, and that can help you automate response. So, for example, with firewall, you can send commands to firewall from NDR to drop suspicious traffic. You can integrate with network access control solution to isolate an endpoint, for example. With endpoint and detection and response solution, which is another key pillar of the SOC visibility triad, you can, for example, contain compromised endpoints. Or you can send events detected by NDR as another source of data to log management tools like SIEM, or to SOAR security operation automation and response tools, where you can do more detailed event collection and correlation. So this is where we covered the N for the network, why network is important, D for detection and detection capabilities, and now we have covered the response part. One thing that I personally really like, and is something that advanced NDR vendors also implement into their solution, is the MITRE attack framework. For those who are not familiar with MITRE, It's a government-funded research organizations that was spun out of MIT and is funded by Nest. And they have a connections with the government, with the three-letter agencies and government agencies like CIA, FBI, NSA, etc. And the point of the framework is that it provides a blueprint how threat actors will use tactics and techniques and procedures to carry out an attack. It was originally developed to provide a common language or a common vocabulary and the way of looking at things for not only for vendors, but also for blue teams and red teams when they practice against each other in a cyber arena. And this actually brings a great value because now you are able to pool resources and efforts to get ahead of potential threat actors. It provides a useful way for red teams to play offense. But it's not just about knowing the anatomy of an attack so that you can prevent it from happening, but you can also pretend to be an attacker, right, in a preparatory way, so that you can set up a more robust infrastructure for dealing with threat actors and potential attacks in the future. So I intentionally mentioned the MITRE ATT&CK framework because in the example that I've prepared where we look at ransomware, we'll be actually looking at it through the stage of the MITRE attacks tactics. So if we look at an example of the ransomware, for example, where a hacker is managed to get inside your corporate environment and needs to discover and identify what your network looks like and where you have your critical systems that they might leverage. They may use a number of different tools to scan through your environment and get a better understanding what your network is look like. Then they move to next page where hackers will do where hackers will find some vulnerabilities and will try to exploit them. They can do a password spraying attack known as a brute force attack, for example. Hackers are actually able to buy a list of commonly used passwords from the dark web. These lists can be 1,000 lines long, and they can use those to break into your environment. Once they get access into one or two of your system, they will want to get more ground and move laterally through the network. You might have a lot of Windows machines using RDP protocol. And here you can see, for example, that there was a zero-day bug that lets hackers bypass Windows lock screen and access it from the desktop without any credentials. So it's really important to be able to see how the threat actors are moving through your network, because once they are inside, firewall is not going to be able to help you anymore. Next, they will do the collection phase. They will install some sort of software that will track what you are doing. Key logging is a common technique that we can see. They will want to see what you are doing, which keyboard you are pressing, and taking screenshots, so they can get better understanding of your data. Then they will have moved to exfiltration phase. Hackers will split the data into the smaller chunks and send the data back to themselves. And you might think that I have a firewall, I am secure, but I'm pretty sure that you will not be that you can be pretty sure that the hacker will not be able to get your data because you have firewall. But are you securing DNS or ICMP protocols? Because hackers are very creative and they will find a way to leverage commonly used protocol over the network to exfiltrate the data out of your network. And it could be gigabytes of data. They can just ping them using ICMP protocol through the network. So how can you identify this ping is a normal and not abnormal behavior and it's a malicious activity? Well, you need the NDR solutions that are able to detect that. And lastly, once the hacker has managed to exfiltrate and encrypt your data, they usually just leave you with some ransomware note letting you know that you've been owned, you've been hacked, and that they demand you a payment. Um, One thing that is a common thing that we can see in the movies, for example, when you have a good guy versus the bad guy, and they're going back and forth at it and keep hacking each other. But we know that this is only in the movies. We know that in reality, it takes a really long time, I would say, for an attacker to successfully go through these number of stages from the recon of the environment, gaining the access, gaining the credentials, moving lateral through the network, collecting the data, and exfiltrate them and encrypt them. It takes time. It can be several days, weeks, or even months. What's good is that each of these stages, each of these movement of the threat actor can represent a potential network anomaly that NDR solution are capable of detecting on. So that's the great value the NDR solution brings you. So if we kind of summarize it, and network detection and response solutions brings you obviously the great benefit of detecting the threats and early incident of compromise in the network, but they actually provide you with the full visibility into the network environment as well. Additionally, it can be a great source of evidence for any forensic analysis when you need to investigate exactly how the threat actor was able to gain access to your environment, so you can prevent it for ever happening it next time. And that, of course, drives a shorter incident response time when you can make sure that you can respond quickly and swiftly when some of the threat occurs in your network. And generally, it brings back control to IT teams, that they can be confident that they have actionable intelligence provided by NDR solutions to secure their environment and make sure that when a threat occurs, they can respond before it ever gets to a serious impact stage. So that was a briefly introduction into the network detection response. And of course, the reason why I wanted to talk to you about the network detection response solution is actually because here at Progress, we actually have a solution available that is able to help you detect threats in the network. The name of the solution is Flowmon, and it provides network detection and response capabilities that can detect threats in the network. So many of the things that I talked to you about throughout this presentation is something that we can definitely help you with. And it also comes with the additional value of network performance monitoring and diagnostics capabilities that are already built in within our solution. And you can also extend for application performance monitoring as well. So this is something we have in our product portfolio that we are very happy to show you. So before we get into the questions, I just would like to say that in the attachment of the webinars, you have our Flowmon solution brief available that describes the solution, as well as the Flowmon ADS solution brief, which is the product name of our network detection and response solution. And if you require any more information, you can always visit our website, www.flowmon.com, where you can go to the live demo and check out our solution live. And as well, you can also contact us through the website and to our sales team, and we will be more than happy to generate a trial license for you so you can deploy the NDR solution for yourself in your environment and find out how many anomalies and threats are lurking in your environment. So that is the end of my presentation. Let me let me switch to a different view, or I'm just sharing the screen, and let's look at the questions. So as again, just a brief reminder, on your top right corner, you have the question mark button where you can submit your questions, and we'll look at it now. It looks like we have one question. Is all the functionality built into Flowmon, or does Progress additional NDR tools? The Progress Corporation has a Flowmon solution that provides the NDR NDR solution, which is called Flowmon. So all of these functionalities that are talked to you about are actually built in the Flowmon solution. So unfortunately, I cannot see the name of the who's asking the question, but I'm gonna mark it as answered. So maybe because I managed to get through the presentation a little bit quickly, then I assume I can just briefly show you the architecture of the Flowmon solution and how it all looks like. So as I mentioned, how the NDR solution works, it can, the first layer is the data collection. So we can collect the data from a number of different sources. We can get it from your cloud platform. So if you have a hybrid infrastructure, you can we can monitor your cloud environment from AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud platforms, and show you the network traffic analysis in one single pane of glass. We can get the data from your routers and switches. So the Flowmon solution actually leverages the NetFlow and IPFix data or any industry standard in a flow format, and we can then visualize it and detect the threats. We also have other products in our portfolio. So that would be the load balancer, which is called Loadmaster. And we also built in the capability that Loadmaster can actually generate the IPFix data as well. So we can feed the data from load balancer as well. When none of these options is available, we can deploy our dedicated sensors, which is called Flowmon probes, that actually we can connect it on mirror port or through tabs, and it takes full copy of the data, full packets, and generates the enriched flow data with application layer data. So you get even deeper visibility into the network traffic. Once we get the source of the data, we send it to the device, which we call a Flowmon collector, for collection and analysis of data. And that already brings you the NPMD capabilities that I talked to about at the end, where you can see who is talking to who, how long, using which protocol, and you can analyze the network traffic. This brings a great value for network operations teams who need to find the root cause of any operational issues, and they need deeper visibility for more effective troubleshooting. And the network detection and response module is just software extension module which we install on the collector and is able to visualize the data from the security perspective. So the name of the product is Flowmon Anomaly Detection Systems. We can just install it as a software module on the collector, and that will provide you the behavior analysis and automatic threat detection and automatic threat detection. We can also have another software module, which is something that we call Flowmon Packet Investigator, to capture full packets and generate a pcap file for you. And the Flowmon Packet Investigator actually does an intelligent decision tree analysis of the pcap as well, and provides remedial action, so you can save time on, let's say, analyzing the pcaps and wasting hours in Wireshark, for example. And the next thing would be the application performance monitoring, which is also our software extension module that monitors the web-based applications from a network-centric point of view. So allow me just quickly to move back to the questions. Looks like we have some more questions. So, do you look into packets and use payload information when created flows? As far as we know, basic flow data allow only detection of only a very limited set of attacks out of the possible scope, mostly. Those whose volumetrics behavior is seen in flows. I somehow cannot imagine how ransomware could be detected purely with flow-based data. Yes, so that is why we get most out of our NDR solution when we deploy our Flowmon probes. So this is actually where we get the full packets, and then we are able to leverage, generate the NetFlow data, but enrich them with application layer and more information to get the deeper insight that we need for the anomaly detection. Okay. What is the typical size of a company that uses Flowmon? So we have customers who has, I would say, just small number of devices in their network. I think the smallest customer has less than 100 computers in their network. But generally, we like to say that the solution is suitable for any customers. But the typical sweet spot is SMB and mid-market, where we let's emphasize them that organizations from 500 to 5,000 employees is a typical size of the customers that we tend to focus on. We, of course, have smaller customers and we have larger customers. Flowmon is supporting a distributed architecture, so it can easily scale to the largest networks. Hello, my name is Willie Powell. Is Flowmon completely software-based or a hardware-based? So Flowmon solution is an appliance, so it can be hardware or it can be virtual. We support KVM, VMware, and Hyper-V for virtualized platform. Could you tell us about the advantage of integrating Flowmon and WhatsApp Gold, please? Oh, yes, of course. So I'm sure that many of you who know progress organizations are familiar with the WhatsApp Gold infrastructure monitoring. So Flowmon has actually been acquired at the end of last year by Progress. And we actually managed to do a first level of integration between Flowmon and WhatsApp Gold. And the integration is now that if you have a WhatsApp Gold infrastructure monitoring in place and Flowmon for a collector and ADS module in place as well, you can actually view the network detection and response dashboards as well as the network operations dashboards within WhatsApp Gold. So you can have it one unified dashboard within WhatsApp Gold where you can analyze the data and where you can view the data in the dashboards that you can create as your own. If you need to do any deeper analysis, you can just click on the dashboard and it will guide you to the Flowmon GUI where you can do more analysis. This is just the first step of our integration, and we plan to focus on this integration even further and provide more features and capabilities as we move forward. Another question is, what are the advantages Flowmon provides versus vendors such as ExtraHop and Darktrace? That's a great question. We actually have our competitive website pages on our website, which I might be able to pull. But generally, I would say, there we are. So if we go to looks like I'm not able to find it right now. We just updated our website, but I will get back to the question just to answer as briefly as I can. So I would generally say that the great value of Flowmon is that we leverage the NetFlow data versus ExtraHop and Darktrace who leverage, I believe, full packets. The obvious difference is in scalability and in price. Generally, when we go against competitors like ExtraHop or Darktrace, we usually come at a cheaper price. Darktrace is a vendor who focuses purely on security use cases, so purely a network detection and response solution. The added value of Flowmon on top of that is that we provide a similar feature set in terms of NDR capabilities, but we add we add the network traffic visibility as well, which is a great value for the network operations teams. And the advantages against ExtraHop, I would say, well, generally when what we see that ExtraHop is focused on larger enterprise, and whereas Flowmon is more focused on the SMB and mid market. So the obvious difference comes in the price as well. Okay. One of the biggest current problems of NIDS systems are false positives. What techniques do you use to reduce false positives? I can briefly talk about false positives and mention one of the new features that we the Flowmon 12 version that was released in and that is where that is actually driven by our customer feedback, where now you can tune false positive by adding autonomous system number. So this is actually specific to the for example, Office 365 platforms that generated a lot of false positives. So now you can actually tune it and say that for this autonomous system numbers, you don't flag it as a anomaly, but it would be a false positive. We have number of other techniques, but I might not be able to show them to you right now. I will come back to these questions later on offline in the email, and we might be able to arrange a demo with our sales engineers who can go a little deeper into the product. Another question, how is integrated Flowmon and WhatsApp Gold? I think I already talked about that. And how Flowmon compares with Gray Cortex? That's a great question. I think I'm actually in the middle of analyzing that as well. So I'm going to respond to that in offline as well, because it might be more in-depth answer. So I think that's enough question for now. I still see that we have a couple of questions that I'm not able to answer. So I will come back to those questions later in offline, and will respond to you in the emails. As I mentioned, this webinar has been recorded, so you will receive an email, and if you need to come back to this webinar, you can then watch it through Bright Talk platform as an on-demand webinar whenever you wish. And as I already mentioned, if you require any more information about Flowmon, please do reach out to us through our website, through our support team, or to our sales team, depending on the questions and requests that you might have. It was a pleasure to talk to you about our solution and about the NDR capabilities, and I will be looking forward to your webinar next month, probably with our next webinar. So thank you very much and have a good day.